Hello, everybody.
Hi,
Good morning.
guys.
Well, it's morning for us. It's about 9 a.m. our time.
Yeah, it's a wake and bake kind of morning.
It's wake and bake. It's high tea with the Mary
Yes.
Janes.
Now, I am not personally wake and baking. I just have
Yeah.
CBD in my coffee this morning, but
We decided
still had
to
to do it to them.
refrain from the wake and bake so we can actually have an educated panel about cannabis and whatnot.
Yep,
We'll
yep.
talk about wake and bake, but we won't actually do
Yeah. As long
it.
as it's not on stream, like if I wasn't having to
That's
basically
true.
work, like I would still wake and bake. On a Sunday, oh yeah. Praise
I
it and
know,
blaze it,
Sunday.
man.
Right before church.
Yeah, it's the
All right,
best.
guys. This is high tea. Um, Nicole, welcome. I just took CBD
Nice.
oil too. I love that for you.
CBD crew.
I
A.
just got these edibles, and they have THC as well as CBG, which
Mm.
I've never tried before.
Hmm.
But when I got them, the bud tender told me that it's like a bubble bath for your brain,
Oh, that's a nice way to
which
describe
is
it.
like such a nice way to describe what CBG is. And I'm very
Yeah.
excited to see how that feels. I
Yeah,
could use
you'll
a
have to
bubble
let me
bath for my
know.
brain. Yeah, I definitely will.
I have to go pick up a pack of them myself.
Nice. Yes. I know after this, I'm sure we'll feel very inspired to
Yeah.
have some edibles. Um, so us at the Mary Janes, we're a Colorado-based organization, Rose Foray. So we are very passionate about cannabis and education about cannabis, its history and its benefits, as well as we're very passionate about, the whole incarceration
Mhm.
for nonviolent marijuana charges. We would really like that to come to an end. So it's up to us to educate y'all about all the positives of this wonderful,
Good morning,
wonderful.
Jamie.
Good morning, Jamie. Welcome.
Sorry to interrupt you, Meredith.
No, you're good. This is going to be a chill time, a chill morning panel
Yes, yes, it is.
for y'all. Alrighty. We can go ahead and introduce ourselves real quick before we get
Oh,
into it.
yeah. I guess we
My
should do
name
that.
is, yeah, right? My name is Meredith. I have she, her pronouns. I am the local chair of Rose Foray. Um, I am a little under the weather today, so I apologize. I work with young kiddos and I catch whatever lovely germs they bring into our building. So
Love
if
you.
if my voice sounds a little yucky, I apologize, but I am just excited to be here.
It is also quite dry up here in Colorado, especially lately.
Yes.
It's been
I've noticed
rough
that
on the
too.
throat.
Yeah, even if I wasn't like sick, I feel like there has been a lot of dryness. The other day we were actually noticing that our infants woke up from nap and they all had like sore throats. They were all just like coughing like crazy. And I was like, "You poor babies."
It's me right now too. I
Yeah,
woke up this morning and I was like, I got like smoker's cough going
I
on.
know.
It sounds
Good
great.
morning, Nari.
Good
Thanks for
morning,
joining
Nori.
us.
Yes, thank you.
The dryness is not it.
Mm, I know. I got both coffee and some water here for me,
I've got my
just in
water right here. I'm
case.
already like halfway done with it.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the vibes today.
Yeah. All
Chantel, would you
right.
like to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi guys. I'm Chantel. I use she they pronouns. I mean, usually I like to use they them pronouns, but we are in Lolita. It's a very feminine fashion, so I don't mind. It happens. Um, yeah, I am the financial chair for Rose Foray, and I've been an avid cannabis user for like 10 years now. So yeah, that's
I
about
guess we
it.
didn't talk. about that. I
Oh,
have been
yeah.
using cannabis for, I would say, about 4 to 5 years. So I'm not quite on your level, Chantel.
To be fair, to be fair, you know, I
Takes
even,
time.
yeah, very true.
That's funny.
It's better
We've
than,
got Carolyn from Noble
smoking.
Ghost joining us. Good morning.
Oh, yeah. Good morning,
Hello, thanks for
Carolyn.
coming. No, we're still on
No,
the first
we're
one.
still on the first one, Jamie.
We're just get we're
We're
just
just, taking our
crawling
time
through
here.
that introduction.
Yeah. We're just, we just woke up, you guys. Come on.
Jamie's like, hurry
bear with
up.
us. Yeah, right. Oh, and another little preface for our panel. This is an 18 and older panel. Just so you're aware, we are talking about, adult content. Would not recommend for underage children. So,
Yeah, if
yes.
you are not comfortable talking about, cannabis and any other adult topics that might come up as a result, feel free to hop onto our Twitch account and check out some of our panels from last night that you may have missed. Thank you, Nicole. I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Kids be gone. I love kids, but not right now. Now is not your time.
Yeah, no. We are.
Nicole, I'm in Lolita, and I'm saying it's okay.
Yeah, we're both in Lolita. I think we both think
true.
it's
Chantel's
fine.
also wearing Lolita.
This is an 18 and older panel. I don't know what else you would expect.
I know. All right. Well, we're excited to get into the history of edibles.
Yeah.
So to begin,
yes.
Yeah, I'm ready. Yeah, to begin, we've got the Stoner Age.
Yeah.
I love that pun.
Oh, I know. I was like, I wanted to do something for like the more, a little bit further back of the history. So the Stone Age, the Stoner Age.
Appreciate that.
We've discussed in our last panel, cannabinoids are derivatives of the cannabis sativa L plant, or the hemp plant, which evolved in the temperate regions of Central Asia, where cannabis was used as a medicine in ancient China and India, and this is where our edible history actually begins.
Ooh. So our earliest written references to cannabis appear around the 15th century BCE in China, where it was consumed as a tea. However, scholars agree that these surviving ancient medical texts speak of cannabis use in the past tense, giving the impression that it had been a common medical staple long before written texts confirmed the fact. Crushed cannabis seeds were actually used as food in Asia in the past, especially during famines, and they continue to be used as baby food in sub-Saharan Africa. And this is because hemp, a component of the cannabis plant, contains important amino acids as well as a complete source of protein.
Fun facts for you.
I know.
For centuries throughout the Indian subcontinent, a drink called bhang had played a role in Ayurvedic medicine and is promoted as a remedy for physical pain and nausea. It was also in India where the Vedas, a collection of Hindu religious texts, contain cannabis as one of the 5 sacred plants. It also has been a prominent feature of various Hindu religious practices, rituals, and other popular Indian festivals, like the Holi festival held every spring.
I like that you pointed that out, Jamie. Hemp milk is one of the healthiest plant milks.
Yes. It's got all that protein and all that, those amino acids. It's still in the milk.
Yeah. Well, we discussed that in our last panel briefly, right? Isn't it in the breast milk as well?
Yes.
Yeah. So
CBD.
I mean, well, yeah, CBD. So even babies are getting their
getting
dose.
A little, chilling after a good feeding,
And then they take a really nice nap, right?
Yeah, that's exactly why they take a good nap.
Right. So during medieval times, cannabis was brought to Europe by Scythian invaders from Central Asia. where Cambodians had used cannabis as a seasoning in Khmer foods for centuries. And it's still an important ingredient for their happy soup served at weddings, which I thought that was so cool. I wish I had some happy soup served at my wedding.
Right? Gonna have to pick that tradition up and see if we can get some happy soup at the wedding.
I know, right? Get a caterer that'll have that on the menu. So further south in the Aceh, am I saying that right? Aceh region of Indonesia, the Acehnese use cannabis liberally in their cooking, as well as in their dodol Aceh, a toffee-like candy. This was the time when Kylos was developed out of Greece, a process where green cannabis seeds were steeped in wine for days.
Oh, now that one hit me. I was like, oh man, cannabis in wine? Ooh, right? Now the Greeks were onto something there.
Say thanks, Dionysus. No.
Yeah, right? Towards the end of the medieval times, the first record of European usage came from the Italian writer and gastronomist Bartholomew Platina's book on honorable pleasure and health. This book was published in 1474 Italy and detailed a recipe for what roughly translates as cannabis nectar, or an oil-like form of hashish.
Ooh. Moroccan and Persian ancients consumed their cannabis in the form of hashish, as referred to in the original 1001 Nights collection of folk tales, also known as the Arabian Nights. An ancient Middle Eastern marijuana recipe still popular today is majoun. Is it majoun?
Majoun, I think.
Majoun.
Yeah.
See, I don't know how to talk. This uncooked jam, majoun, this uncooked jam features dates, nuts, honey, spices, and hashish rolled into bite-sized balls, and provides a healthier sweetness than most of today's infused edibles.
Those sound absolutely delicious.
I'm sure the processed ones that we are used to have lots of not fun sugars.
Oh yeah.
In them.
Oh yeah, definitely. But they are pretty good.
But they're delicious.
I will say that. Okay. Yes. I like those. I think it's Love's Oven, the cookies from them. Ooh, those are dangerous.
I have tried those before.
And Snoop Dogg's chocolate. That too. Those are danger.
My very dangerous one is Kodak chocolate bars.
Ooh, yes.
Those are my absolute favorite. They come in all these like super fancy flavors, like coffee and donuts.
Oh like man, that one is so good too.
Or something like that. They're so yummy. I'm like, I almost wish this wasn't infused with cannabis so I could eat the whole thing.
Right? Like that's why they're so dangerous, is because I'll start eating like half a chocolate bar and then I'm 50 milligrams in, and then it's just like, oh man, we're in for a ride today.
And then it hits you and you're like, wait, I could use some sweets right about now. You see the other half of the coffee or candy bar right there, you just go ahead and
it's so hard to resist it.
They need to make regular bars. I agree.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
For those times when the not regular bars hit.
Yeah, right. Around about the mid-1800s, the researcher William O. Chasney, I think is how you pronounce his name, brought large quantities of hemp and cannabis from India to Britain and introduced modern medical cannabis to the Western world. By the late 1840s, France's intellectual, literary, and artistic elite gathered in Paris's Club de Hachiciens, or the Club of Hashish Eaters, to consume hash in their coffees and teas via candy and infused tinctures. These gatherings were later referenced within Théophile Gautier's popularized book under the same name.
Say, how do we
Find that
pronounce all
stuff.
these people's names?
Yeah. Right. It's
I
part of
find
the
this
history.
right. I find it really interesting that hashish was consumed by the intellectual and the literary and artistic
Oh, I know. I love this
back
picture
in the
that I
day.
chose for this slide just because it was like, look at them all. They're all just like chilling. Like, yeah. I can imagine
Well,
that's what it was like.
it's just so interesting how like the reputation has changed so much over the years.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like you wouldn't think of the most intellectual, literary, and artistic elite. At least now with the way cannabis is so stigmatized.
Yeah.
That's just one of those things you wouldn't think of. Yeah, Nicole, like since ancient times we've been using this product,
Yeah.
and it's so interesting that now it's been so like criminalized and just like just so villainized.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see.
Yeah. Especially considering, it was, especially for, you know, since it's been ancient times, like we even, have records of ancient China and India using it as a tea, like even as an edible itself,
Right.
so it's so interesting. Yeah. The war on drugs. Oh, sorry. We're
Oh,
both clicking.
sorry. I guess that happens when you both try and feature a comment. Drugs is winning again.
Yep.
I've heard that there's a lot of
Yes.
employers. Yes, that is very true, Jamie, and it's
Hmm.
very important that you say that because that is the root of the problem.
It's very true. It's kind of like the epidemic with crack versus cocaine kind of thing. It's literally the same
Yes.
thing. If you guys didn't know that, it's basically the same thing. One has like baking soda, I think, in it or something like that. But they charge way higher for crack because it's an inner city kind of drug.
Yeah.
So like they're
Marijuana is
out here
still
really doing it to them in a not good way.
marijuana is still a Schedule One drug, isn't it?
Yeah, that too, yeah. Which is
Which is
like one
wild.
of the harshest punishments. And you
Yes.
can't research it either. It really limits the potential
Yeah.
use of it.
Right. When we've already seen like so many benefits.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So now we'll be getting into the time period that cannabis first migrated overseas into American culture.
Yeah, I think that was a good segue. You know,
Yeah, right?
talking about how,
See
Americans
how
war on
things have
drugs.
changed. Yeah, right?
Yes. Yeah. THC entered THC entered Western medicine in the early and middle 19th century and was widely used for its medicinal pain relieving purposes. An 1862 issue of Vanity Fair actually carried an ad touting Ganjawala Company's hashish candy and as a medical agent for the cure of nervousness, weakness, and melancholy, which is like a fancy older term for depression, basically.
Depression.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm like, melancholy. That sounds more pleasant than what actually is happening.
Right. Yeah.
Cannabis extract and medications were marketed by pharmaceutical companies over the counter in the United States in the late 19th to early 20th century. The accompanying increase in recreational marijuana smoking led to formation of the Marijuana Tax Act in 1937.
Boo.
Yeah,
This
right?
is this is the same act that is still affecting us almost 100 years later. We're getting there, but that's just crazy
Ooh,
to me that they still.
yeah, what a long time ago that was established.
Yeah. The first edibles in the United States can be traced back to 1954 when American born middle class Polish Jew named Alice B. Toklas, I hope is how you pronounce her name, I'm not sure, published a cookbook that included a recipe for hashish fudge. Toklas is the partner of Gertrude Stein, who is a background figure in the Persian or Parisian avant garde movement, And she received the recipe for hashish fudge from her friend Bryson Geisen, who is a performance artist, painter, and writer and inventor during that time period.
I was reading this recipe and I was like, ooh, I want to make some.
Right. I find it really interesting. One of the most interesting parts about the recipe is that you don't bake it in any way. You just grind up the cannabis and stick it into a ball and eat it. And I
I
was like,
thought about that. I was like, wait, don't you have to uh that big word?
decarboxylate?
Decarboxylate. Thank you. Yes. I was like, don't you have to? But here is the recipe for
Yes.
hashish fudge. You take 1 teaspoon of black peppercorns, 1 whole nutmeg, 4 average sticks of cinnamon, and 1 teaspoon of coriander. And they should all be pulverized in a mortar. About a handful each of stoned dates, dried figs, shelled almonds, and peanuts. Lots of good natural sugars in here, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Chop these and mix them together. A bunch of cannabis sativa can be pulverized. This, along with the spices, should be dusted over the mixed fruit and nuts and kneaded together. About a cup of sugar dissolved in a big pat of butter, rolled into a cake and cut into pieces or made into balls about the size of a walnut. It should be eaten with care. I liked that.
Yes.
Note. 2 pieces are quite sufficient.
Yes. I like her little note at the end. Oh, yes, 2 pieces are
Like,
quite
please,
sufficient.
just be careful. I just want to highlight this comment. Lolita
Yes.
marijuana as a style. We are wearing
We
our
are
hemp leaf
wearing it.
necklaces right now.
Yes, Meredith so kindly made us, check out Darling Dream Shop.
Oh, thank you. I might be a featured vendor.
Yeah, you never
I'm
know.
thinking about making hemp leaf keychains soon. If there's an interest for that, let me know. I'd love to make more of these guys. Mary
Oh, I
Jane
like
Lolita.
this.
There you go.
Yes. Yes.
I would like to know about Beach Lolita. Please
Beach
explain.
Lolita.
That sounds fun.
Sounds kind of contradictory. Because
Sounds
isn't the
tough to
point of
wear
Lolita
to
to
a
be kind of
beach.
like modest and covered? How are you going to go to a
Well, I feel
beach
like you
like
can.
that?
Well, you can like. I don't know, like some cute parasol looks for sure.
Oh, that's fair. Mhm.
Vaporwave, Beach Lolita. I could see it. Like
I can see
going
it,
with
yeah.
like the seashell motif and things like that.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah. I
I
can see
have
it
been
working.
wanting a JSK that's like kind of sea themed in case we ever go to like an aquarium
Mm,
meet. That's
yes.
yeah, it's on the list.
I would love that. I love the aquarium.
Mm-hmm. All right. Talkless's recipe spiked especially during the 70s when marijuana consumption peaked, obviously, and both the inhaled form as well as the edible form. Thanks to a scene in a 1968 film, I Love You, Alice B. Toklas, the popularized fudge actually turned into the quintessential pot brownies that are associated with modern edibles. Um, I think that's really where you get like that quintessential popularized, this is what stoners eat, are brownies.
That
It's because of this
it's a
movie.
big. That's a big culture moment for sure.
Yes.
Definitely. That is interesting.
Mhm.
By the 1990s, Mary Jane Rathbun, aka Brownie Mary, began illegally baking cannabis brownies out of her home in San Francisco. However, these were not simply to make a profit or for Mary herself to benefit from. Brownie Mary concocted these illegal brownies to serve to San Francisco AIDS patients to help ease the patient's pain during this epidemic. So,
That's
she's my new
fantastic.
hero.
Right?
I
And I
think that's
love this picture
amazing.
of her too. She's just like, I will fight anybody. Like, she's
Like,
just
I will
ready to
fight the
go.
police to
Yeah.
give these patients what they need.
She's so cute. She's my
That's so
hero.
badass. I love that
Right.
so much.
Um, oh, I lost my place. I'm sorry, you guys.
That's
It
all
was
right.
in 1996 that California became the first state to legalize medical marijuana, which ushered in the era of store bought, commercially made products. By 2014, Colorado became the first state to legalize recreational marijuana and also imposed a limit of about 10 milligrams of THC per serving for edibles. And this was when the edible was finally becoming suburbanized.
I'm wondering, since 2014 is when the 10 milligram kind of limit started, I wonder how strong that hashish fudge must have been.
Oh, oh man.
If two pieces is sufficient, you know.
Right?
Ooh, I
Yeah.
like this fact here, Nicole.
Hmm.
Colorado
I
was the
didn't know
first to
that.
abolish slavery too. Colorado is just on
Colorado
it,
for the
you
win.
know.
Yeah.
Love it here.
I wonder how long it took them to realize, like, maybe we should limit people on the milligrams of THC for the edibles. Like, did they just kind of
Mm-hmm.
like let people eat
Do
edibles
whatever.
with like how just tons of THC in them?
Probably just a lot of trial and error, you know.
Yeah.
Learning the hard way.
I
Not to put
actually
that much.
I remember in Texas hearing about it. And then just hearing about how like people were going to the ER because they just were getting way too high and they didn't know what to do with themselves. They were just like, and they were freaking out. Like they weren't like actually dying, like they were fine. They were just
No,
having like
of course.
paranoia. But you know, I do remember hearing about it and just being like, oh man, that's crazy. And then they, you know, they obviously regulated it.
Right. I know. Nuts. Today, the creation of the cannabis infused edible is a much more sophisticated process. The THC and CBD levels in modern edibles are clearly marked on every package, along with the type of weed used in the creation of the edible, so indica, sativa, or a hybrid of the two. And sativa is more like the way I always describe it is sativa is more like a mind high, whereas indica is more like a body type of high.
Mm-hmm.
Chantel, if you would like to elaborate more on that, you can, but
Um,
that's
I
the way
feel
I would
like
best describe it.
personally, I would describe it like sativa is kind of like a cup of coffee in the morning, whereas indica is like you just took a bunch of melatonin. At least for me,
I
like
like
indica
that
will
too, yeah.
just, you know, they have a nickname, and that's why they call
Couch.
indica couch. Yes,
Exactly.
it'll
No,
just put you
sativa.
into the couch.
Yes, sativa's more of a like if you want to get things done. If it's like in the morning and you're setting up for the day, that's a great type of strain. And then indica is more for you know what I. It's the end of the day. I want to unwind.
Yes.
And then you get a nice hybrid that'll do a little bit of both.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so most modern edibles have an absence of the typical marijuana scent or taste, even though they might contain a good level of THC and CBD, which obviously desirable.
Yes. That absence of taste or scent of the marijuana in modern edibles is actually made possible because of the very sophisticated extraction process in which the marijuana flowers are distilled into an odorless, tasteless oil by using carbon dioxide, butane, or ethanol to separate the plant from its trichomes. Now, trichomes, or fancy special word, for the small little resin glands that manufacture cannabinoids and terpenes, which terpenes are, in layman's terms, the stinky stuff or the stuff that actually gives marijuana that scent. Which personally, so, you know, some people don't like the scent, but I am one of those people. I'm like, let's put it on as a perfume. Like, give me
I
a
like the
good,
scent too.
yeah, anytime I smell it when I'm out in public, I'm like, even if we're, you know, we're in a recreational state, it's okay. I could carry it around
Right.
with me in public too, but I smell someone and I'm just like, who has it?
You're
Who's
like
got
this
some
person's
share?
having a good time.
Yes. Once the cannabinoid flowers have been distilled into an oil, wax, or paste, it can be used within recipes. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Although you can also eat raw cannabis, as we've seen with the older Alice B. Talkless recipe, where she just ground up cannabis and threw it in there. It won't actually have the same effect as consuming cannabis-based products, as it has to go through a process, as we've talked about, as known as decarboxylation to become activated. As we briefly discussed in our last panel, when delta 9 THC enters the bloodstream, it is actually then metabolized into 11 hydroxy delta 9 THC, which is then absorbed into the adipose tissue, which adipose tissue is just a fancy medical term for your body fat, where it will actually stay for about 30 minutes before then being released back into the circulation and reaching the brain. I lost my place there. Yeah, no. However, with edibles, the delta 9 THC that has been extracted has already undergone a decarboxylation process, either during the extraction process or when the edibles were actually cooked. And the remaining 11 hydroxy delta 9 THC is thus already more potent. Because of this, and because the compound is absorbed within body fat, scientists knew that the extracted THC would have to be combined within some sort of fat within any sort of baked goods. Just like we saw with Bang from India, when milk and even milk can be used because of its high fat concentrations. This allows for a wide variety of edibles to be created by infusing the extracted THC or even CBD into things like butters, oils, and other fats. So you can make things from brownies and cookies and cakes to even melted butter on top of a steak and oily salad dressing.
I think
Thank you, Nicole.
I didn't even notice.
My Canadian accent.
Yeah, unfortunately, Mary Jane Lolita is not real. We're just making that up.
Right.
Weed is very illegal in Japan.
Yes, I believe you can't even discuss it. So, like, propaganda, like what we're doing, having this panel, couldn't be presented in Japan.
I believe that. Yeah.
Yes. It's very highly illegal there. Just saying.
Chantel just really knows how to do their research.
Yes, I very much like all sorts of history and knowledge of all sorts of things.
Thinking about
yes.
Guess I can't visit Japan anytime soon.
No,
exactly, Nari. We would be banished.
Tarred and feathered.
Tarred and feathered. I do think it's interesting since, like, THC or CBD does need to be in some sort of fat. That way you can make it into butter or oil, and you can literally cook it into anything, any recipe that uses butter or oil.
With more modern technology, I was actually reading about it. I didn't want to put a whole slide into the presentation about it because I know it's a newer technology that they're using, but they actually, because I'm not sure of the process or how it's actually made, but I know now that they've made kind of like a crystal distillate that you can actually dissolve in water. So you can put it in pretty much anything now. You don't have to necessarily dissolve it in fat, but I'm not sure how that one actually works, but we're getting to the point. You can put it in anything now.
Right. This is an interesting question, Nicole.
I mean, they do it just like you would in illegal places here, because technically it is still federally illegal, so.
True. People find a way.
Yeah. I feel like everywhere, really? All over the world, people anywhere just smoke weed.
That is cool. Water-soluble cannabis.
Right? I was like, the potential for that, the potential use for that is just incredible because You can just
Really.
have it with your morning water. You don't need to have, some special fat to dissolve it into or anything like that.
It really takes out like so much like time that it takes to like create an edible.
Yeah.
Um, because the whole process to create cannabis butter is very long.
Yes, it is. As someone who
Takes
has
like
done it
a whole
myself,
day.
yes.
No, I have also done it myself, and it takes all day. It smells so
Yes.
bad.
Yes, your whole house, like the whole
Like,
neighborhood down the street will just smell like it for a week.
and it's not a normal like weed smell. Like it's a very bad smell.
Yes. It smells like burning weed too. Like
Yes,
just
it's rough. So to make
oh,
that
Jamie
easier,
Jamie brought
ooh,
this up and said, "I wonder
I
if that could be
wonder.
used in an IV." I think it probably can.
I bet it could. As soon as you get a medical team on board with that.
Yeah, for people like chronic pain patients, it's also
That
great
is
for
wonderful.
vegans,
Yeah,
because then you
true.
don't have to have any sort of animal fat to use. Not that you can't, I mean, they have all sorts of vegan fats that you could use too, but it's definitely a lot
Right.
harder.
Right, like you said, if you just want to have it with a cup of water in the morning and get on with your life,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah. Make it a lot more versatile. But even then, even before they made that distillate crystal, I think it's really cool that they have all sorts of recipes. Like the steak
Mm-hmm.
one really got me. I was like, putting it on a steak? Now that's smart. That is really smart. I never would have thought about that.
No, I've seen recipes for like cannabis infused like mac and cheese and like any sort of
Ooh, yes.
pretty much anything that uses butter or oil is like
Mm.
on the table, literally. So it's like,
Well, and even then, back in ancient Greece, we saw that they infused it into wine, which I found really interesting. So you don't necessarily have to dissolve it into fats, but somehow they did it into wine.
I like that. That's good to know that there is support there.
Yes.
It seems like one of those things that you gotta get through the federal legalization process first, I would think.
Mm-hmm. We're getting
But
there.
we're getting
Canada,
there.
Canada's up in there. They,
True.
which I'm really glad that they federally legalized it in Canada because then we can at least do more medical research. So they're very much leading that boat there of
Mm-hmm.
doing a
Mm-hmm.
lot more medical stuff with it.
Thanks, Canada.
Yeah. I'm not gonna sing
So
it. I like anytime I hear "Oh Canada," I'm just like, oh yes,
you're like, ah,
go off in
yes.
the tangent and start singing.
That's funny. You gotta sing the whole thing right now.
It's my motherland. It's my, it is
It's
my
true.
home and native land. It really is.
Hmm. A little
They
additive.
soak the seeds in it. So I don't know if it was just like slowly extracted, like as the seeds kind of soaked in the wine, it just kind of.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It was just fermented like other things.
Mhm.
But I don't know.
Did we answer
Very
this
interesting.
question? At what point do
Oh.
you say they're going too far?
Hmm.
What do you mean by like
Yeah.
consuming too much or like processing the.
Yeah. Hmm. Elaborate. I don't think there's such thing as going too far
Yeah, I know.
to
I was gonna say, I'm like,
to
you're talking to
bring to
someone
bring
who
this.
sits here and does dabs all day, so like, what is
Well,
going too far?
not in terms of like taking too much, but I don't think there's anything wrong with making it as accessible as possible to the community.
Mhm.
So I'm on board for water soluble cannabis.
Yeah, right. Well, and especially because we're starting to learn about all the different components. There's like I can't remember the number. I think it's like 161 different components to marijuana. So, like, you know, you have CBD, CBG, CBN, you have all sorts of
Yes.
different types. And I think really exploring how, like, extracting those components and seeing what each component kind of does is really, really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it in the beginning. Like, even in ancient times, people were using it in their tea,
Yes.
um, and using it in lots of other different types of foods. So, I think any and all experimentation is welcome to me, in my
Hmm.
opinion.
Yeah. Well, and even in India, especially, they use it for religious festivals like Holi and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So it's, you know, it's
it's
not
not a
just consumed for
religious space
completely
for sure.
recreational reasons.
No, it
Yes.
feels too far because that's how we've been conditioned to see marijuana. I would agree with that. I think
Hmm.
overall, as long as we're not forcing anybody to consume things they don't want to consume, by all means, you know?
Yeah. Well, and like I said, like we were just talking about, you know, as we start getting more into like the extraction, different components and seeing what different components do, you know, that'll really
Mm-hmm.
help us understand the entire plant a lot more. I think, especially with that, the Marijuana Tax Act of 1937 really pushed us back in terms of understanding the plant and all the components that could possibly be used for.
Thanks, Nicole.
I like this comment
She
too.
said we look cute.
Thanks.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right.
You know what?
Doesn't
I'm,
look like
I'm
anything.
sure. No, it's fine. I'm sure CBD water must be carefully labeled the way any other CBD product needs to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and
Safety lids and all.
I think it was a few weeks ago, more recently, I went to the dispensary here and they had all sorts of sodas and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
when did they put
There's
it
a,
into
there's
a
so
root
many like
beer?
drinks now. Yes.
Yeah, I was like, oh man, I had to buy one because I was like, I gotta try it. And so I was like, I was driving home and I was like, should I try it while I'm driving? Maybe not. I'll wait till I get home. But the second I got home, I was like, popped the top off and was just, wow. I was so impressed because I was like, you can't taste it. It tastes exactly like
Mm-hmm.
root beer. And I was like, wow,
That's really
this is
cool.
where it's at.
You had a cafe near you that dispensed CBD water. Or are you saying it's somewhere in Colorado? That's pretty cool. I know lots of cafes around here have CBD sodas that you can just
Well,
buy.
yeah, most places around the United States actually have CBD now because it's
Right.
ironically it's federally legalized. So you have one part of the plant that's illegal, but the other part is legal. So it's like
Right.
if you have the whole plant, the whole thing is illegal until you extract the CBD, then the CBD is fine. Okay.
Somehow. I've seen CBD kombucha, says
Ooh,
Carolyn of Noble Ghost. That's pretty cool.
that sounds delicious.
I believe that.
Mhm.
You've had CBD soda too. I don't remember what flavor mine was. It wasn't cola, it was some sort of fruit flavor. And I couldn't really taste it, but I remember just feeling really relaxed while drinking it.
Yeah.
Ooh, Nari, CBD boba? That could be fun.
Oh,
I have not seen that before.
make it.
But why not? Yeah, Nari, come on. I'm ready.
Be pretty easy to actually make something like that.
I'm sure.
Anyway, back to our presentation. We got a little off topic there.
Yes, yes, that's fine. Nothing wrong with the
Yeah,
good
no.
old discussion. Answer some questions. So the main issue with edible cannabis products is that it can be very difficult to determine an appropriate dosage, because concentrations of THC vary widely depending on different factors, such as where the product was made and the quality of the cannabis that was used. Additionally, unlike smoking cannabis, edible cannabis products have a long latency period. Sorry, meaning that it can take a while, sometimes hours, for it to take effect. When cannabis is smoked, the THC reaches the brain and takes effect within only a few minutes. The effects peak around 20 to 30 minutes after smoking and begin to wear off within 2 to 3 hours. In contrast, the psychoactive effects of edibles usually take 30 to 90 minutes to kick in. The effects last much longer and typically peak about 2 to 4 hours after ingestion, depending on how much was ingested, as well as your body weight, metabolism, gender, and other factors. So it can be very tricky.
Yes, very much so. The combination of highly variable THC concentration and the long latency period of edibles can make cannabis products very unintentionally easy to overconsume, which can lead to unwanted symptoms such as paranoia and impaired motor ability, like we were talking about when Colorado first recreationally legalized it. I did hear about it in the news. A lot of people getting like paranoia and going to the ER and just being like, oh my gosh, I'm dying. And they were totally fine. They just overconsumed. So it's very easy to do that.
Yes. Jamie's comment, never say this edible ain't shit.
Yeah, right. The second you say that, that's usually when it starts to hit.
Yeah, if you want your edible to kick in, just start calling it out.
Yep.
It'll come get you. Yes, this is important too. Drink a lot of water.
Yes. Speaking of which, get a little. But yes, since it's so easy to overconsume, this is where we get the adage, start low and go slow when ingesting edibles, especially for new users, which means start with a low dose and wait several hours before taking any more, especially because other side effects that are related to edible cannabis products include things like dry mouth, sleepiness, and changes in visual perception.
Definitely taken too much and just went to bed for the day.
Oh yeah, I've done that. Especially if it's an indica edible, I'll just be like, out.
Good night. That cotton mouth will get you. That is very true.
It's so true.
So easy.
And that never goes away. I don't think that has never gone away. I've been smoking for 10 years and I still get cotton mouth real bad.
Oh yeah. Also applies to edibles of the fungus variety. I bet that's true.
Yes.
Newbies start with half. That's very important.
Mm-hmm.
I did not follow that rule, and yeah. I had a very fun birthday party as a result.
Well, that sounds fun though. I think the first time I ever visited Colorado, I bought 2 chocolate bars because we were just like, oh yeah, we'll go on a hike and we'll consume it while we're hiking and everything. We ended up eating a whole chocolate bar each, and I tell you what, after the first 30 minutes, I was like, I'm not feeling anything. So I ate like half a chocolate bar to begin with, and then was like, I don't feel nothing. Let me eat the other half.
Oh boy.
Done for. Done for. We went to dinner afterwards. I don't even think that I had any sort of conversation. I just sat there and was just like, what?
Like, I can't process things right now.
Yeah, so that was my first experience with Colorado cannabis. I was like, this is why I need to live here.
You're like, I've decided this is a place where I will reside.
Yes.
That's pretty funny. Yeah, that day I had my very first edible, I didn't quite understand how dosages worked. And so my friend, I only took one, and then my friend came up to me and she asked, oh, how many did you take? And all I saw on the bottle was 100 milligrams. So I assumed that was the dosage per edible. So I just told her casually, oh, I only had 100 milligrams. And she was like, you're gonna
what?
You're gonna no, she got very concerned for a minute. She was like, okay, so here's what's gonna happen. And then I was like, wait, no, I only had one.
Yeah. Right. And this is why we regulate our
This is why we regulate.
edibles.
This is why we educate and regulate.
Yes, yes.
Jamie, you're watching us from Starbucks. That sounds like a good place to be.
Here for it. I got Starbucks this morning.
I gotta go redeem my free drink.
Yes, yes, you do. That's exactly why I was like, okay, it's Sunday. I have to use it.
I know. Time's running out. On the other side of these not so desirable side effects, many users report beneficial effects, including but not limited to increased creativity, reduction of pain, euphoria, relief from anxiety, depression, or melancholy, as they liked to call it back in the day.
Yes.
And other types of mental disorders, and generally improved focus. Just a very big reminder, as with anything else, always consult a doctor for larger dosage suggestions and prolonged usage.
Yes, especially because we have not a ton of research on like the prolonged usage and how it actually affects the body in the long term. I mean, you could really take me as an example. I've been smoking for 10 years and I don't know. We don't have any health issues so
and I'm
far.
Fine.
I seem fine. My doctors, they all know, even when I lived in Texas, right. I was very open about it. I was very much like, I know it's illegal here, but we got to at least bring it up because it can interact with other medications. So like, it's always important to still tell your doctor. And most doctors, they're not there to arrest you. They just want to know, what you got going on so they can help you. And
that's so it's important to say, because I think there is a lot of fear with like being transparent about those things with your doctor, but
yes,
like I've had doctors know very much about my cannabis usage, and it's just important for your health because, like Jamie said here, THC cannot be combined with some medications.
Yes.
And some mental disorders, while it can help, it can also hurt, depending on who you are and what you're dealing with. I know that other types of hallucinogenic drugs absolutely cannot be consumed with antidepressants, or you may have serotonin overload, which is very bad.
Yes.
I've had that happen to me once, and it was not a good time. So it's very important to have make an informed decision before you consume any type.
And also keep that open communication between you and your doctor. I think that's probably like one of the most important relationships, in my opinion, is like you and your doctor. Like they know everything going on with your body and all that. So like they're really the people that you need to talk to about your usage and everything.
It's important to find someone who you trust.
Yes.
Do you prefer smoking or edibles to feel some effect? I can't speak for Chantel, but I do a little bit of both, pretty much on a regular basis, and it really depends on what I'm going for.
Yes.
Because like we've talked about, edibles are very intense. They can hit you really hard, and I tend not to go for edibles if I'm wanting to really concentrate and focus on a task. For that type of thing, I would want to smoke a good sativa before. And edibles are more for like if I'm about to like have a fun time, like going out or staying in and watching a movie or something like that. That would be when I want to feel the effect from edibles specifically.
Yeah, as long as I know that I got like a good like 6-hour window of I don't have to do anything, that's when I'll do an edible. Otherwise, it's mostly smoking for me. Only because I think that it's a lot easier to kind of control how high I get. Especially because I usually smoke like oils or wax and stuff. So like I'll still a good dab, it'll put you on your ass. It'll still happen, but
Yeah, it will.
it's a lot easier to control because it happens immediately. So like, whereas, taking an edible, especially because it is a different type of THC and everything, I think that that's definitely one of those, you're kind of testing it. You're just kind of like, okay, let's see how this is going to go today. Let's take,
Yep.
30 milligrams and see how we do.
Well, that's why it's important for newbies to start in their own home where they are comfortable and safe, preferably with someone they trust who is maybe not consuming
Yes,
with
that
you,
would be my recommendation.
just to get a feel for how things go.
And also consulting your doctor prior, just in
Yes.
case.
Yeah, you never know.
Well, that's the end of our presentation. And, as always, make sure that, we free everyone incarcerated for nonviolent marijuana charges, because that's kind of ridiculous, in my opinion.
Oh, that's important, Jamie. Don't do edibles with strangers, especially if they gave you the edibles.
Yes. Ooh.
Please don't do that.
I have some horror stories from, my younger years being in like rave clubs and people being like, "Oh yeah, it's a THC edible," and it turns out to be the complete opposite of a THC edible, and then you're on a wild ride for the next like 8 hours. And so don't take things from strangers ever. Don't ever do that.
I would say any rule of thumb you would think of when it comes to consuming alcohol.
Yes.
Think about that when you're consuming cannabis as well, because it has all these wonderful benefits, and I am a big fan of cannabis, but I am not like, I don't like to beat around the bush with the fact that it can have some like negative side effects, and it can also be very harmful to have too much or to have something in your body that you don't know what it is. So just be careful. Don't let anyone pressure you into taking too much.
Yes, this is true for anything.
Yes, absolutely. Just be careful. We want to talk about, the benefits of this wonderful plant, but we don't want anyone doing anything irresponsible.
Yes.
So
we also don't want to, make it sound like we're advocating you go out and consume a bunch of cannabis right now, especially if you're in a state where it's illegal.
Absolutely.
We're not advocating for illegal usage. We are advocating for it to be federally legalized, though.
Exactly. We don't condone illegal activity here at Rose Foray.
I would love to do a psilocybin talk. That would be fantastic. Yeah. I very much enjoy all sorts of different, I guess, natural, I would say, usage things. So things like, even, what is it that... trying to think of the component that's in it. Things like ayahuasca talk. And peyote, they produce like DMT in your brain, which are really interesting. All sorts of healing kind of medicine. So I think that psilocybin would be a fun discussion as well, especially with it being recreationally legal in, where is it?
Right. I don't remember.
Oregon or Washington? Was it Oregon? I think it's Oregon. Portland,
I think, did it. You're right. But there's so much new research about it. I feel like that would be a fun topic.
Yeah, especially, and I know that Colorado decriminalized it. We haven't completely legalized it here, but it is decriminalized here. So we're starting to get onto that front of research and everything.
We're getting there. Nicole has a question. Why are you both so cute? Because you're here egging us on.
Yeah.
That's why. You're here
was telling.
supporting us, and it's just giving us a glow of
Yes.
happiness.
It's also the morning glow. You can see it. My
Yeah, the
window
lighting is
here.
very pleasant right now because it's like early morning. It's like the sun is out. So I'm just lucky, I guess.
Yeah, same.
Well, thank you very much for coming to our little panel that had nothing to do with J Fashion, but you know, that's what we're here for. We've got sources if anyone's interested.
Yes,
Um,
I'll go to
and
the sources page if you
we
want to
can
see
we can
my sources.
we can drop them in the Rose Foray events Facebook group if y'all want to learn a little bit more. Um, next up will be our tea parties. So hope everyone's excited to have a chill time at the tea party.
Yeah, I am. I'm so excited now that we
Yeah.
have Wake and Baked with my. Yeah, I mean, I didn't bake, but had CBD in my coffee, so we're
We
gonna have a
baked.
nice relaxing tea.
Yeah, that's what I'm about. Make sure to donate to us at our coffee page or at our PayPal if y'all would like to see more fun content like this. Vote for the coordinate contest. Voting is still open, so please vote. You can still enter the charity drawing until up until closing ceremonies, right?
Yes, you
So
can.
if you'd like to enter the charity drawing, you guys can win some fun prizes.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's all I want to plug. Thanks for
Yeah.
coming.
I think possibly the next installation of the Mary Janes is probably going to be something like hemp, just talking about hemp and all the usages of hemp, I think.
That would be
That would be
great.
really interesting, only because like
Yeah.
there's just so many uses that you can use hemp for. And then it would be a whole
Well,
discussion about things that don't just get you high
right.
or
It's
affect your
about,
body.
well, hemp would be so great for infrastructure in general. Like you can make natural plastics out of hemp and like
Building materials too.
right.
You can
Yeah,
make
we did talk about that last time.
I think it's like a non-flammable type of building material, so it's like fire resistant and everything.
That's
Why
so
don't we
cool.
use it?
Because
Marijuana Tax
politics.
Act.
Thank you. I'm glad we were
Thank you.
educational. I'm glad you guys learned. Thank you, Nicole.
Yes. That's what we're here for, trying to
Yes.
educate.
Yeah, that's a little too ahead of our time.
We
Maybe one
actually we
day.
had discussed that maybe we could make a few YouTube tutorials where I cook
I
edibles.
think YouTube is a little more relaxed about it
A little
these
bit,
days. Just from
yes.
some of the YouTubers I've watched.
Well, and even then, like if it really was such a problem, we could just put CBD in it and be like, well, you can substitute it out.
True. That's true. Make some
So,
CBD stuff for the camera.
yeah, it's definitely something that we have discussed because, we do have a resident pastry chef. So, I could teach you how to make all sorts of edibles. I do have edible
Yes.
cookbooks, so make all sorts of different things.
I want to say I've made some, but they don't turn out very good.
It's very fair.
I need to.
Especially with that crystal distillate, I really want to start
yeah.
trying to work with that especially because you can't taste it. It dissolves in water. Like you could do so much with that.
Agreed.
Yeah, definitely something we could look into in the future.
Yeah. Alrighty, well, we'll go ahead and sign off.
Yes.
Thank you again for coming. Hope you guys have enjoyed virtual Versailles.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.